Welcome back. I feel like I have to do some sort of radio host intro because I got a new mic, if you haven't noticed. And I'm just enjoying hearing the bassiness in my voice and not the whirring of the computer. But anyways, enough with the mic. We're going to talk about bouncing balls today. Pretty much a basic one concept in animation. Something, if you've taken any sort of animation class, you'll definitely try to make something bounce. That'll probably be one of your first projects. And though it's one of those simple and early things you learn when you get into animation, it's also one of those things that can continuously be perfected, and you can see elements of it throughout everything you do, through character animation to motion graphics. If you can spend time and master this, then it'll translate into so many other things you do. Not that I'm a master, of course, but I've done a few ball bouncing type animations recently, and it just got me thinking about it. And there's also different ways to rig it to make it a little bit easier to animate in After Effects. So I'll just go right ahead and start off. As you can see, we've got a lineup of 4 balls here. And I'm going to use those as just to show you how you would think about animating different types of balls. I mean, that's the first thing you should do. Before you even lay a keyframe, you should think, what's this ball made of? What are its properties? What's its personality? All those types of things should be going through your head before you even lay your first keyframe. So we're going to start with the red ball, and so I'm just going to hide everything else for now, just so I can focus. Okay, so for each of these balls, I've got the ball layer, the ball itself, and the ball control. I like to have 2 points of control with a ball, because if you only have 1 point of control, this will be easier to explain with one of the other balls, actually. Let's bring out the bowling ball. Okay, so if you only have 1 point of control, let's get rid of our null layer that was above that. And you would normally want to put your anchor point right in the center. And to do that, just in case you don't know, this is your pan behind tool, which controls your anchor point. When that tool is on, you can move the anchor point around. If you just hold Command and double click it, it'll automatically center in whatever layer you have. So that's obviously super useful for any type of circle animation you might do. Oftentimes you want your anchor point, more often than not, you'll want your anchor point right in the center. And that works fine. We can do a simple little bounce. Bring it down to the ground. Bring it down to the ground. Bring them back up. Bring them back down. Bring them back up. Blah blah blah. And you'd pull your handles on the times when the ball is at its apex in the air. Pull your keyframes. Leave these floor keyframes sharp, because when any ball is hitting the ground, it's hitting it sharply. It's not going to hit it at a curve. I mean, it might, depending. You can never really say never in animation, but odds are it won't be hitting the ground at a curve. So even, I mean, obviously my timing is way off, but even there you have a simple bounce, and that works fine. Anchor points at the center. The anchor point at the center you would think would also work fine for rotation, which it does. See, the ball stays in, but the one thing it doesn't work for is if you want to also scale this guy down, have a little squash and stretch. Let me get my rotation back to 0 because it was confusing me. Yeah, so if honestly, if you wanted the ball rotated like this, and then you want to squash and stretch the ball, it's hard to make the ball hit like it's supposed to. Like, this is how it should look, but if your ball's tilted a certain way, things just get confusing trying to get this ball to squash and stretch the way you want it. So for that reason, let me get all the way back to where I started. Undo. For that reason, that's why I like the 2-point control, because this control shape that I've put over the ball, which is just a square, it's a shape layer that has a square on it, just so I can see it visually as I'm using it. This controls, your ball is parented to this, so this controls what we were doing earlier. This position, bump. So that does the job of what we were doing earlier, but now actually, I think I was thinking about this wrong. Well, technically, if you want some squash and stretch in your ball, let's get a... Oh, now I'm rethinking on the spot what I would want to do. Let's rotate it. So this guy would rotate. But now I'm wrong because that is changed. I wonder. Sorry, I'm just thinking in the moment. I want to be able to rotate this freely, but always have my bowling ball's anchor point at the bottom. Because I always want to be, no matter what rotation this is, I want to be able to squash once I hit the ground. And it's something I don't even know if I need. Because I'm going to be controlling the rotation with that. Yeah, I'm overthinking this, I think. No. Let's go to the red ball, because that's the one that's going to have the most squash and stretch anyways. Let's bring that back out. I'm just going to I'm going to go through the motions to make it look really good using the rig, but I'm sort of second guessing my own rig right now because I made this like 5 minutes before the stream. I wanted to practice it a little bit more beforehand. But I was out of town all weekend and lost time, so. And then I got way too into geeking out about setting up the mic. But regardless, let's do what I talked about, the basically. And the reason I want rotation on the top is for the stretch. I think I just got an idea. Because I want to be able to... This ball's also going to have scale on it. Or should it be on this? No, it shouldn't. This one's also going to have scale. This one's also going to do the scaling. That way you can get, we're getting that little bit of a speed squash. But once this hits, I want to be able to squash the ball down. The problem I'm trying to solve for basically is I want to be able to squash this ball down without it coming, see how it's coming off the ground there? And because I'm rotating the control layer, the anchor point that was at the bottom is now on the left side. And that doesn't help me because I need the anchor point to always be on the bottom. And if that's the case, this might be stupid, but... I don't know if this is going to do what I want it to do either. No, it's not. It kind of worked. It might work. Let's go with it. I mean, it's kind of a nitpicky thing for me. I'm trying to come up with like a clever rig, and I guess I never really did like totally come up with it before this tutorial, but I do want some sort of clever rig that will allow me to just, no matter what this rotation is, this anchor point's always at the bottom. There's probably some expression I could be doing too. But I don't... Yeah, and that's the thing. I can't like move the anchor point on the ball without it moving. Something like I'd have to compensate. I'm sure there's some sort of, but we're gonna forget it. Because I think I'm just going to go back to just showing you a ball bounce because I just went in a circle and got nowhere. So normally you want your... Let's just stop getting ahead of ourselves. That's what I need to do. Let me show you the tricks of just a basic ball bounce. Okay, so we got the arcs. We know that much. Next is timing. And like I said at the beginning, before I went off on my crazy tangent, is, you know, what's the personality of this ball? I wanted this first ball to be what I'd think of when I think of a cartoony sort of ball. So it's going to have a lot of spring to it, a lot of squash and stretch, and a lot of bounce. Think of the most generic type of cartoon ball you can think of. The next thing you're going to want to do is, I mean, that doesn't look half bad. Once you've got your timing somewhat where you like it, you want to go into you want to select your keyframes, your position, go into the graph editor and start playing with your timing and pulling at these. You'll want to have an ease in and an ease out, or you'll always want to ease in and out of your highest point. And you always want to hit the ground with a smack. And when you look at the graph editor, like, think of it this way. If I pull this all the way down to 0, that's essentially saying the ball is starting with 0 velocity. It's moving 0 pixels a second, and then it's ramping all the way up to about 1800. But this looks even too unnatural for a cartoony ball. So let's have it have a little bit of motion coming out of the sky. Even more than that, it's still too slow. I honestly think I want to shorten my timing too. I think that's part of the problem. I'm kind of doing this one on feel for fun. Normally I normally sort of count out how many I'm doing, but I'm just kind of doing this one on feel. I think that's a better lesson too. It's a challenge in sort of knowing what you're looking for. I go back in here. Gotta bring this one back up. Sorry, I'm in my head. But as you see, I mean, that's just playing. It's just playing with these. How fast, thinking about how fast you want it to come down and hit the ground. I mean, that's sort of my point is you have the basic arcs of a ball. Like, the basic things about a ball bounce is it should be ease in. If you need to know 3 things, or if I had to give you like a list of things, like the ball always eases in and eases out of its high points, like I showed you with the graph editor. The ball also is always hits the ground and goes out at the same velocity. So we got the linear keyframes on those. Those are always going to be linear. These are always going to be eases. Once you've got that, then you're free to just play. I mean, that's a ball bounce. That and like moving the timing around. But even that's a little bit experimentational. I guess what I'm trying to say is ball bounces are extremely experimentational, and you should play with it until you get what you like. As long as you follow those things, it should look natural at least. If you kind of break those rules, you'll get into a little bit of an unnatural look, and it might not be as smooth. But here we have a base. If we wanted this ball to have no squash and stretch, I'd say that it's a good-looking ball bounce. Now let's add some squash and stretch and squash and stretch and squash. It's tough two words to say after each other. But now let's add some squash and stretch and see what happens. So we're going to put a keyframe on our scale. We're not ever going to rotate this ball, actually, because there's no need to. It's all one solid color. It's going to look the same no matter which way you rotate it. So we'll put a scale on this. Let's put a keyframe right before it hits. Actually, I was wrong again. Let's not do our hit squash and stretch up yet. Let's do our rotation and mid-air squash and stretch. What I mean by that is rotating this ball. Oops. Sorry. Yeah, just giving it a little bit of that so it looks like it's oops. Don't need that keyframe on the rotation. Bring our scale back like it pops out. Maybe one after. Make it really pop. Probably even squish down more. We can copy our keyframes again. Not a rotation though. So because we want to keep rotating this ball forward as it's moving, because that gives it an even more of a natural feel. And it also allows us to stretch it and rotate it at the same time and make it look natural. I'm gonna put my eases on these. Well, at least I can make that. That looks pretty good. At least I can make a ball bounce. I can't talk about one very good, but very well. But that actually doesn't look half bad. Gotta keep that right. I already had the scale. Rotate forward. All right. Really hitting. So that's a very bouncy ball. So, I don't know. I guess I mean, you could put all of these keyframes on the ball. You don't really need this null. If this is all you want to make, you don't really need this null. I mean, I don't know if you really need the null anyways. I just like to have I also like to just have things to grab onto that aren't skewing this. If I want to mess around with the scale of this, it doesn't mess around with my ball scale. So if I wanted to do something else weird in the middle of this, I have the control to. I guess what I'm just saying is having a controller is just a little bit nicer. Gives you a little bit more freedom. But is it necessary? No, I don't think it actually is. Another thing you can do is sometimes it's nice to sort of double up on this hit. I don't know. You can add a little bit more squish. But as you can see, this is where it would be nice to have the anchor point always at the bottom somehow, because I don't want to have to move the key points around when I'm squishing it. But yeah, gives the ball a little bit more of a stick feeling. You can turn off your control. All right, there's your basic cartoony bounce. And that's sort of going to be our scientific neutral as we move forward with the rest of the balls. The rest of the balls are... we're gonna base what we think about the ball off of this red ball. So a bowling ball, you know, is that gonna have? How is that gonna act differently? Get all these off. How is that going to act differently than this red ball, this red bouncy ball? For one, the bowling ball is going to have no give whatsoever. It's just going to be it's actually going to be easier to animate almost. We might give it a little give. It's hard for me to not get, no. Nope. I mean, a bowling ball would never squash or stretch. And if we're going for realistic, that's what we want to do. It would also, but what are some of the other things that would react differently, or how far it would bounce, how high it would bounce? I'm going to follow the same timing. A little bit. It's not going to bounce as far or as high. It's going to really kind of hit and stop because of the weight and the material. and then it will roll off. Let me see what this is looking like so far. I think this is too far away. These hops need to be smaller. I turn my airtime into easy ease. Gonna move them all up. Yeah, that's sort of looking good so far. Now it's just playing with these. A lot of playing with the handles. I don't want it to have as much hang time either. I want it to be kind of quick in the air. I like the pop on this, the one after this. It's making this one not look as good. I think it's just the timing. It's a lot shorter. Shorten it up. Yeah, it was the timing. It was the timing. Can we make one a one frame bounce? One frame bounces sometimes, I don't think they were ever, they usually don't look good to me anyways. I don't know, we'll try it. And then this thing would roll off screen. I'm not even going to put an ease on this one because it's one frame. First off, it's rolling off way too fast. I think this one has too much of a pull on it because I pulled it. Oops, didn't mean to do that. I still think that one frame looks like garbage. Oops. What the hell was that? Oops. There we go. So now our bowling ball looks like it has weight. That like... Let's be honest, it should be a constant roll. You can sort of use the dots as a visual reference, like how far every dot is a frame. So you can sort of use those as a visual speed reference, which I'm doing right now, of how to get the ball looking sort of natural as it comes out. I'm really just playing around. I think that ease makes it speed up too much. It's hard to get that ease to look right. That looks okay. We want to rotate our ball. Uh, 90 degrees. 90 degrees. Kind of every time he bounces, he does another 90. Cool. I don't know, I think that looks pretty natural. Let's just see it by itself. Definitely feel the weight, a little bit weightier, a little less floaty compared to our red ball. All right, what else we have? On to the next one. Tennis ball. Honestly, this will be pretty similar to the red ball. Maybe it'll actually have more bounce. Even more spring to it. I don't need the ping pong ball. I need the tennis ball. Let's get our controller. Position, rotation, and scale. Start it up. Oops. Like I said, this one's gonna be. This is why I got my handy little graph in the background. Because this guy's getting more height. There's a lot of height though. Maybe not that much. It's got to lose some height. It's also got shorter bounces and more. I might need to play with this timing. I'm almost certain I will. All right. Just kind of visually doing this. No. What I think it'll need. Visually doing this too, because it looked like trying to just get even spacing throughout, or an even degradation of power to distance as I try to sound scientific. Add my eases. Sorry about that. I was just responding to a comment, which I'm not used to doing because no one usually watches these. A follower named Handarand asked me if why I don't ever separate the X and Y positions, which he means like separate the X and Y. Because it would start just deaccelerating or going down by Y faster. So let's try it out. Or let's play with that. The only thing I don't like about this is, can I not? Why can't I like... For whatever reasons, I don't have handles on these anymore. And I really don't like that. I mean, I guess I gotta set up my arc before I separate them. We could try separating them on the bowling ball. Oops. Let's make another one. Let's make a copy. That's the smart thing to do, is make copies. Don't be destructive, even though I'm not the greatest at that. Damn it. Damn it. This is what I want. Okay. I'm going to separate the dimensions. Make it go down by... Start decelerating and going down by Y faster. I don't know. I don't like this. I'm going back to unseparated. It's easier for me to visualize it that way. Maybe it means... Yeah. Oh. Interesting run on that. It wasn't used to separating them too. Pretty. Some real life forces push you out of the... Yeah, okay, yeah. I'll have to watch that. I've seen some of School of Motion's stuff hand around. I just haven't, I'll have to watch that one. Because I haven't seen that. Yeah, I'm used to keeping them all I mean, for this is usually how I do it. And then I'll use timing or the squash to fake the speed that I want. But I'll have to check that out. Their stuff is really good. They're a really good reference. Because I tend to do character stuff more than motion graphics, so I like to watch their stuff when I need to pick up a really cool like motion graphics tip for a explainer video or something like that. Maybe I'll check that out and like do another, like a follow-up tutorial or something. Or a follow-up what I learned. Because it is... Oh, thanks, man. Thanks. I appreciate it. Because it is, yeah, I never claimed to be an expert. I'm just sort of... I just sort of enjoyed doing the streaming and gets me to make more work. And that's the point. That's the goal, right? Is to just keep making more stuff. But yeah, I'm constantly learning new stuff too, and that's what's fun about it. That's also what the challenge is. You got to keep working at it nonstop. Someone's always got a new plugin or something that's come out. But I'm glad you like my stuff, man. I appreciate it. You're like the first person I've ever had actually watch or respond. Not that that's a bad thing. I'm just kind of doing it. Like I said, I'm just kind of doing it for fun. Post them on YouTube and call it a day. If someone gets a kick out of it, then good. If someone doesn't, that's okay too. Just following this same pattern, trying to get this tennis ball like a really good spring to it. I need to look at this. I need to look at what I'm doing. That almost looks real. Or it almost looks right. To me. And I feel bad because some guy named Cinerade said hi. Yeah, I'm the same way. I mean, honestly, I feel like that's sort of part of the reason I started streaming was because I feel like I've watched a lot of the tutorials on YouTube, and I don't know. I feel like there's room for more stuff to learn from on the topics. You know, sometimes I feel like there's not I can't find exactly what I'm looking for, and you know, if I can sort of add some more tutorials to the internet or stuff for people to follow along, then good. Okay, I've realized it's difficult for me to maintain a conversation and do this as well, which is funny. Needs more spring. I'm going to try to concentrate on this tennis ball. Some of my timing just is off. I also need to turn off these other balls. Oh man, That's always the question someone asks me about the character. Anytime I meet someone that's also working in After Effects or knows my work, they always ask me if I've checked out the Adobe Character Animator, and I just have not. I actually looked at it today when I was updating some of my cloud apps, and I just have yet to really dive into it. It's one of those things that I don't know. I'm a person that likes to have control of almost everything, and I feel like I don't know. I haven't played enough around with it to even know if I'd like it or not. But I feel like it would be losing a little bit of control, like me looking at a camera, moving my head around. So that aspect, and I'm sure you can capture those keyframes, and I'm sure it would work great in a pinch or for a project where you need a character talking and you need to get it done really quick. So honestly, I probably should learn the ins and outs of it. I've just been avoiding it. Short answer is I've been avoiding it. It's been like procrastinating it. Something else is like always catching my eye. But I should dive into it. That's that would be another good one for a tutorial in a later week, or like a deep dive. Gives me an excuse to learn that. Yeah, lip sync for sure. Because yeah, I mean even with rigs, lip syncing just takes a great amount of time. And it would be nice to just like drop the VO track in and just have the character talk. They're shooting out too far too. That dong, da dong, dong, dong. Baby, make your booty go. This one definitely needs some squash. Try it only for facelift, I sync, other stuff. Can't recommend. Yeah. Yeah, I should definitely look into it for that. I actually don't do a ton of I haven't had a ton of projects lately that required it. But if I had a major project come in for real work and I had to do a ton of lip syncing, I would probably pick it up or learn how to use it for that. I just haven't. That's another reason I haven't honestly done it, is because I haven't had the perfect project where I'm like, yeah, I should learn this now. Not that I don't. I mean, I wish I had more lip sync stuff because I like to do that kind of stuff. And honestly, I've just been getting I mean, I just got the joysticks and sliders. I don't know if you watched that last tutorial I did on joysticks and sliders, but I mean, I just finally I'm usually slow to the game with the plugins too, just because I like to be able to sort of figure out how to make something or do something before I get the plugin for it. But I recently got joysticks and sliders, and that's just been so much fun making head rigs that turn and stuff. So I'm also having a lot of fun just like making my own rigs. Oh man. Yeah. I can't remember how much it was. I don't think it like totally broke the bank. It might have been like 45 bucks. But honestly, it's my favorite like plugin that I've used in a while. It's just fun to use. It makes all the controllers and stuff for you. In my last little stream, I did a character with that kind of stuff, or made a character with that. I think with the tennis ball, we'll just have the squash be very sudden. Extra spring. I know. I saw the tweet they sampled out of the head rig, and that's essentially what joysticks and sliders does. So I'm like, yeah, since Duick's free, I would honestly wait for that and see what that is. Because I'm anticipating the English tutorial. I'll definitely be watching that. Because that's what I'm most comfortable with is Duick. Even so, the sliders does, aside from the head turn stuff, it has that's the joystick aspect, and the slider aspect is like a whole different thing, which is kind of fun and useful to play with. Lets you make controllers very easily for different aspects of a rig, or for anything really. But I've only used it for rigs and stuff. Oh, it's not? Really? I haven't seen any tweets since they sampled it. Is it you? I'd pay for it. Duick has given me so much that I don't have to feel really that bad about paying for something. Plus, I am honestly curious about it. I mean, depending on how much it is. If it's like insanely expensive, I probably won't. $20, eh? $20 is like right at the cusp. It's like, I want it just bad enough that I probably will. The French was earlier. I took French in high school. If only I'd actually learned it. Could be getting that tutorial right now. You're fine. Doesn't look too bad. I think we're just not making enough distance at the end. Sorry, that thing's janky.
Alright, I'm just trying to
You don't have to worry about it. Just leave it. Yeah, I've watched Daniel Geis. His stuff is insane. I mean, like he's like the master. Whereas I just do this for fun. Like that guy actually like knows everything he's talking about. Some of his stuff, but like as I was saying, it's rare I ever get a project that comes up where I have enough time to build like the rigs that he builds, or need a rig as in depth as his. But his stuff is so fun to watch. I just had to tend to build things on the fly and a little bit faster. That's why I think it's so cool he does that kind of work. I'm like, man, how do you... I don't know, man. Where are you finding those kind of jobs? I know. He always, yeah. I'm always like skimming through his streams. And I'm just like, man, yeah, he streams even longer than I mine have been mostly like an hour and a half, and his go 3 hours on like one thing he's trying to figure out. He was painting a bird. Yeah. He does go deep. It is also cool though, because he does also run into problems just like anybody, and he's like, then he just tries to figure it out live and people help him. So it's cool. It's at least good to see that even people as good as him are constantly like learning different ways to do stuff. And his painting is, I wish I could paint backgrounds that way. That's something I want to kind of work on too. Oops. Cat's in. Cat's in the office. This ping pong ball is really light, so we want that to hang more than any of the other ones. It's still gonna fall faster than it goes up, yeah. Where's my red ball? Daniel's also cool just because he seems really normal too. Like he's like someone I'd actually like to. It would be cool to work with or meet one day. I think we've got too much distance on this. Too much arc. I got too much arc going on here. Yeah, man, I agree. I love it. Love that guy. I just know that he like has to just work insane hours too. Sometimes I could just tell by looking at him. I don't know if I could push that hard. But thank God for him, because then there wouldn't be as many tutorials if he wasn't around doing them. This ping pong ball looks like shit. So do you make work for yourself mostly, or do you make stuff for... Do you have a job doing this? Or are you in school? Or since you said you're making stuff similar. Freelancing, yep, that's what I'm doing right now. I've been doing it for almost 2 years now. I worked at a company out of college for 6 years and got really sick of that place. I wasn't learning anymore. I wasn't growing anymore. Timelines were getting too short. And then me and my fiance moved a couple times, and I started freelance. I was freelancing a little bit here and there before that, but then I started doing it full time. Just kind of worked out that way. I tried to find jobs in the couple places we moved, but nothing landed at the time, and I started freelancing, and things have been pretty... I've had enough steady work doing it that it hasn't become a huge issue yet, and I kind of enjoy it. But that's cool. Fellow freelancer. I don't know if I've heard of Andrew Vucko. Is that another animator? Am I going to sound stupid for not knowing who Andrew Vucko is? I'm going to Google it. Andrew Vucko. Yeah. Looks like he's another animator. I don't know that I've seen his work though. Oh yeah, I'm sure I've seen his stuff somewhere. Yeah, I like his stuff. I know. I mean, I'm definitely enjoying the freelance for now, especially after like 6 years at the one company I was at. I just got exhausted. That's the one thing I did used to do a lot more is back when I first started was find new people to follow. Like I found Daniel Geis like forever ago when I was first starting, because that's what you do is you look up as many tutorials as you possibly can. People like Ross Plaskow and what's his name? God, now I'm forgetting his name. I'm brain farting. Scott Benson. Scott Benson. He just made a video game, which is amazing. Because I've always wanted to like do animation for some sort of game. Because there's so many indie games that could fit the style. So it's like that's one thing I haven't done as much is look up new people. I'm on Instagram a lot more looking at like stuff like that instead of going on Motionographer and Behance as much. I don't know, man. I'm thinking these balls are done enough for me. Do I have them all out there? Bowling ball's not out there. Oops. I don't know. I kind of dig it. That's kind of a cool little shot. Mount Mograph, I definitely follow those guys. Buck. Animator. What's this guy's name? I want to know if you Marcus. I'm gonna have to. Maybe I found it. I didn't know what his last name was. This guy. I don't know if you've seen this guy's work, but he does like the stuff on his website isn't as good as his Instagram. I would go to his Instagram. Hold on. Oh yeah, you've seen his stuff. Yeah, Mark, I love his stuff on Instagram. Like every time he posts something, I'm like, damn it, he's like way better. Some of his stuff's really cool. All right, but yeah, I think I'm going to call it for tonight. The bouncing balls have been bounced. But yeah, I do this every Monday. Next week I'm going to get back more into character stuff. Going to try to do a bike riding character, which I think is something Daniel Geis has done, but yeah, his stuff does look easy, like deceivingly easy. But yeah, come back Monday if you got time. I'll be around. We can chat some more. Later.